Welcome to Mystery in the Dark. Tonight, we embark on an investigative journey so profound, so wide-reaching, that it will fundamentally challenge every assumption you hold about the stability and integrity of the American system. We are not just uncovering secrets. We are charting the coordinates of a coordinated national failure, a conspiracy of silence and action that spans from the inner-city streets of Chicago to the elite lecture halls of UC Berkeley. We ask a question that should chill you to your core. Why is the system so determined to dismantle the very foundations of safety, prosperity, and freedom? We begin with the first pillar of this terrifying structure: the paradox of controlled chaos in Chicago. The narrative we are constantly fed is one of political gridlock, regional disagreement, and differing philosophies on policing. But scratch the surface, and a much darker truth emerges. We are witnessing a calculated, deliberate act of political sabotage against law and order. For years, Chicago has been the unfortunate poster child for spiraling violence. A city held hostage by fear. A place where car ownership became a daily risk assessment, and where gunfire became the sound of the evening news. The situation was presented as unsolvable, a deep-seated cultural cancer beyond the reach of conventional policing. This narrative was useful. This narrative bred resignation. Then, federal agencies, specifically Customs and Border Protection and ICE, agencies whose primary mission often focuses far beyond the city limits, stepped in with Operation Midway Blitz. The results were not incremental, they were seismic. Robberies plummeted by 44%. Carjackings, the crime that embodies the total collapse of public order, dropped by an almost unbelievable 48%. Shootings fell by 35%. This is the moment the mystery crystallizes. The moment the numbers, the irrefutable evidence of public safety, were presented, the political response was not celebration, but outright visceral hostility. Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson did not simply disagree with the methods. They launched an all-out political war, labeling the life-saving efforts as terrorizing neighborhoods. Let us analyze the sheer madness of this political response. And let us ask, who benefits from a 44% rise in robberies? The establishment's justification is always based on jurisdiction and political optics. They argue federal agencies are overstepping. But what if the deeper, more sinister motivation is that safety itself is the threat? In political science, we learn about the rally around the flag effect. But there is a corollary, the rally around the crisis effect. A crisis of crime, poverty, and fear creates a dependency on the political class. It justifies massive budgets for social programs, allows for the scapegoating of opponents, and most importantly, it prevents the populace from becoming too comfortable, too secure, and thus too independent. The moment the federal agencies demonstrated that the crime problem was solvable, that it wasn't a cultural inevitability but a policing failure, they exposed the local political machine's incompetence and perhaps their complicity. The sudden, swift reduction in crime pulled the rug out from under the narrative of perpetual helplessness. The rage from the governor and the mayor wasn't about jurisdiction. It was about protecting the scarcity of safety. They were fighting to maintain the political capital that is built upon the public's fear. Consider the historical context. Chicago has long been defined by its entrenched political machines, systems that thrive on patronage, influence, and the controlled distribution of resources. Crime is a resource. A high crime area justifies certain spending, certain political alliances, and certain voting patterns. When a federal hand intervenes and breaks that system of controlled instability, the machine fights back with everything it has, even if it means sacrificing the lives of its own citizens. This Chicago paradox is not an outlier. It is a blueprint. It is a terrifying insight into a political class that views human lives not as a responsibility to protect, but as data points to manipulate. We must recognize this for what it is: a profound, dark betrayal of the social contract. Do you truly believe your leaders are working for your safety, or are they managing your fear? The answer: hidden in the shadows of Chicago's political rhetoric, is chilling. We leave the bloodied streets of Chicago, where order is intentionally rejected, and move to a different kind of crime scene, one shrouded in spreadsheets and political rhetoric. This is the realm of the great economic deception. If the Chicago paradox was a crime against public safety, this is a calculated slow-motion crime against the financial security of every single working family. The narrative we are force-fed by the White House and establishment media is that the American economy is not just recovering. It is, and I quote, "the greatest economy in the history of the world." They parade staggering numbers: $18 trillion in private investment, jobs reports that look fantastic on paper, and GDP growth that seems robust. This is the magic show, the statistical smokescreen designed to dazzle you into submission. But here is the dark, cold reality that you feel every time you swipe your card. The numbers are lying to your wallet. The core of this deception is the intentional misuse of macroeconomics to conceal microeconomic pain. When the president boasts of an $18 trillion investment, he is talking about capital flows that benefit multinational corporations, investment banks, and the already ultra-wealthy. This wealth never trickles down. In fact, it often funnels up thanks to interest rates, inflation, and soaring costs of essentials. Let us analyze the historical roots of this modern crisis. The current economic pain is not a random occurrence. It is the inevitable consequence of decades of financial engineering. Since the 1970s, the connection between productivity and worker wages has been systematically severed. Productivity soared, but wages stagnated. This created the perfect environment for political elites to introduce their grand deception. As long as the GDP is up, everything is fine. This narrative is maintained by powerful financial lobbies that dictate policy, ensuring that the wealth generated by your labor flows directly into their offshore accounts, not your paycheck. The question you must ask is, if this is the greatest economy in history, why is generational wealth getting harder, not easier, to achieve? The most immediate manifestation of this systemic failure is inflation. We are told inflation is temporary, a global supply chain issue. This is another layer of the lie. Inflation, at its current scale, is a direct result of reckless spending and the systematic devaluation of the currency. The Federal Reserve, acting in lockstep with the political elite, enables this process. Every dollar injected into the economy devalues the dollars already in your savings account, essentially acting as a hidden tax, a secret transfer of wealth from the poor and middle class to the state and its corporate allies. Consider the human cost. The average American family is not concerned with $18 trillion. They are concerned with the $700 gap between their current income and the real cost of living compared to 5 years ago. They are facing the agonizing choice between paying the soaring rent or buying sufficient groceries. They are watching their retirement funds erode while politicians tell them to be grateful for the job market. This isn't just data. This is emotional, financial terrorism enacted through policy. Is this economic pain truly an accident, or is controlled financial stress a necessary component of the overall chaos agenda? The economic deception finds its sharpest edge in the relentless, cynical defense of the H-1B visa program. When confronted with the crushing reality of economic stagnation, the president and his allies deployed the defense of essential foreign talent. This is pure deception designed to mask corporate greed. The historical deception. The H-1B program was originally conceived to fill highly specialized gaps where American talent was genuinely unavailable. Today, it has been co-opted, commoditized, and weaponized. Large corporations, particularly in the tech sector, use it as a sophisticated outsourcing mechanism. They are not importing unique geniuses, they are importing cheaper, often temporary labor, to replace American workers who are then forced to train their own replacements. This is a profound act of national financial betrayal. When you allow companies to suppress wages by flooding the market with cheaper labor, you actively sabotage the financial advancement of the homegrown workforce. The American worker, educated and trained here, is told they are too expensive. They are deemed disposable. The corporate bottom line is elevated above the stability of American families. This cycle creates a perpetual state of financial insecurity, which perfectly complements the agenda of chaos. A population worried about its next paycheck is a population that is easily manipulated, less likely to protest, and too tired to question the grand narratives being spun from the Capitol. The shocking conclusion here is that the economic pain we feel is not collateral damage. It is the intended effect. The deception is that they want you to look at the massive, meaningless numbers while ignoring the shrinking balance in your bank account. This financial darkness is the second powerful pillar supporting the system of controlled instability. Who is truly benefiting from the suppression of American wages, and what power do they hold over our government? We've seen how the political class rejects public safety in Chicago and orchestrates financial despair through economic illusion. Now, we turn our gaze to the final, most chilling component of this national crisis: the deliberate, institutionalized assassination of free thought and expression within the very heart of American academia, the UC Berkeley free speech conspiracy. UC Berkeley holds a sacred, historical place in the American consciousness. It was the birthplace of the free speech movement in the 1960s, a movement that promised open inquiry and the free exchange of ideas, regardless of how controversial. Today, that legacy is not merely damaged, it has been weaponized and inverted. The campus, once known for defending all voices, is now, by official allegation, systematically silencing dissent through coordinated political violence. The central mystery here is not the violence itself. Political extremism is a regrettable reality, but the complicity of the institution. The event in question involved a conservative student group, Turning Point USA, attempting to host a speaker. The opposition, identified as Antifa extremists, did not simply protest, they launched a physical assault. Attendees were reportedly targeted, property was destroyed, and the safety of students and visitors was deliberately compromised. The most damning element is the official response that followed. The U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, launched an investigation, but their target was not just the masked assailants. Their primary target was the University of California, Berkeley itself. The DOJ essentially accused the university and its associated law enforcement of engaging in a civil rights conspiracy. This is a charge of profound gravity. Let us delve into the DOJ's damning findings and rhetorical questions. The investigation uncovered a devastating pattern of double standards. When individuals deemed politically favorable by the campus administration, like a Supreme Court justice or global figures like the Dalai Lama, arrive, the security is total. The campus operates a full, secure lockdown. Every necessary resource is deployed to ensure absolute safety. Yet, when a conservative speaker, one who challenges the established political orthodoxy on campus, is scheduled, the security apparatus mysteriously dissolves. The DOJ pointedly alleged that the failure to protect the Turning Point USA event was so comprehensive, so uniform, that it cannot be dismissed as simple incompetence. It suggests willful neglect and possibly active complicity. Think about the mechanics of institutional betrayal. A major American university, a public institution funded by taxpayers and sworn to uphold the Constitution, allegedly created a security vacuum. They allowed a hostile, often violent political faction to breach the event, intimidate attendees, and inflict physical harm. This institutional posture sends a clear message: if you hold dissenting opinions, you're not welcome here, and we will not protect you. This is the antithesis of academic freedom. This is academic tyranny. The implications extend far beyond the campus grounds. If a state-funded institution can weaponize violence to silence political speech, then the First Amendment is dead. It means the powerful elite have created a sanctioned attack vector against their political opponents. They don't need to censor the speech. They simply need to ensure that the physical act of speaking becomes too dangerous. The DOJ's next step is the most critical: investigating the possibility of prosecuting the violent assailants at a federal level and revoking their visas using civil rights statutes. This move acknowledges that the local police and university were unwilling or unable to defend the constitutional rights of its citizens. This UC Berkeley free speech conspiracy reveals that the ultimate goal of the elite is the total control of thought. They want to control who gets to speak by allowing or denying security, who gets to listen by allowing or denying access, and ultimately, what is allowed to be true by silencing dissent. We have established 3 pillars of controlled chaos: the rejection of law and order in Chicago, the cynical orchestration of financial hardship, and the institutional betrayal of free thought in academia. These are not disparate events. They are the coordinated operations of a system intent on keeping the populace fearful, broke, and silenced. If the institutions of education and law enforcement are actively working to undermine your rights, where exactly does your liberty reside? We demand answers. We now stand at the apex of our investigation. We have navigated the Chicago paradox, where political will actively fights against public safety. We have exposed the great economic deception, where financial elites use complex statistics to conceal the brutal reality of inflation and wage suppression. And finally, we have revealed the UC Berkeley free speech conspiracy, where institutions betray their constitutional oath by weaponizing chaos to silence dissent. These are not 3 separate failures. They are the 3 pillars of a single overarching system, a system designed for the control of chaos. Let us connect the final chilling dots. Why does the system encourage violence in the streets of Chicago, financial instability in the American home, and the suppression of thought in the universities? Because chaos is the ultimate tool of centralization. When the public is in a constant state of fear of crime, fear of poverty, fear of expressing their truth, they become malleable. They stop asking difficult questions about systemic corruption. They stop noticing the massive transfer of wealth and power occurring at the top. The noise and the pain are the distractions. The Chicago model teaches us that political dependency is the desired outcome. The economy model teaches us that financial subservience is mandatory. And the Berkeley model teaches us that ideological conformity is the price of admission. This is the final dark revelation. The elite do not fear the people. They fear the people's competence. They fear a society that is safe, financially stable, and intellectually free. A safe, secure, and thinking populace is a populace that does not need its political machine, does not rely on its handouts, and is capable of demanding accountability. The 3 conspiracies we've uncovered tonight reveal a political class that would rather have a high-crime city that votes reliably than a safe city that votes independently. They would rather have a populace dependent on government aid than one empowered by true economic freedom. They would rather have students chanting scripted slogans than students challenging the status quo. This is the ultimate betrayal. It is not an accident of governance. It is a calculated feature of control. We have exposed the secrets. Now, the responsibility falls to you. The darkness retreats only when it is exposed to the light of truth. Do not allow the noise of political theater to drown out the undeniable data of reality. Do not let the complexity of economic reports paralyze your personal assessment of your own financial struggle. Do not let fear silence your voice. The mystery is solved. The question is no longer what is happening, but what are you going to do about the revealed truth? This is Mystery in the Dark. Thank you for joining us on this vital journey. If this report has challenged your understanding of the system, share your theories in the comments below. Like this video, and subscribe to keep the light of truth burning against the darkness.